Y ahora sí, seguimos hablando de la macroeconomía. Ya saben que al final es lo que rige en gran parte también las decisiones que toman los bancos centrales. En este caso, Banco Central Europeo, que está reunido ahora en Sintra, en Portugal. Pero vamos a hablar de más cuestiones. Por ejemplo, esa recesión técnica en Europa, la recuperación económica que se esperaba de China al levantar esas restricciones por el coronavirus y que de momento todavía no ha llegado tal y como se esperaba. Y vamos a hablar también en los próximos minutos de esa nueva era, posiblemente, de la macroeconomía, donde las recesiones, tal y como las conocíamos antes, no han vuelto, o al menos no están aquí ahora mismo en esta recesión tan esperada, ¿no?, por algunos economistas. Vamos a hablar en los próximos minutos con Candriam. Tenemos aquí en el plató de negocios televisión a Anton Brender, que es Chief Economist en Candriam. También tenemos a Florence Pisani, Global Head of Economic Research at Candriam. Thank you so much, for both of you, for being here in Negocios Televisión, and good morning.
Morning. Hi, good morning.
First of all, I wanted to ask you about China, because Premier Li Qiang said this week that China's economy is set to grow faster in the second quarter. However, China has not met the expectations of recovery that the market had after lifting COVID restrictions. Why do you think this might be, Florence?
Well, we think it's a short-term recovery because they have left COVID restrictions, so this is pretty good news in the short run. But we think that China is facing huge medium-term challenges. They are confronted with an excess of saving that is choking growth. If you look at consumer confidence, it's very weak. Now, if you look at surveys asking households what they want to do with their income, they mainly answer, and a growing share of them answer that they want to save. They don't want to spend money either to consume or to buy a house. So we do believe that this excess of saving is choking growth. And one way to look at it is that China is one of the only very few countries that is facing not higher inflation, but lower prices. So clearly deflationary pressures are here and it's choking growth. So in the medium term, the challenges are huge in China.
Mm-hmm. Also, I wanted to speak to you about recession, because it's the great word of the year, obviously, year 2023, 2024, and last year also, 2022. We've been talking about recession ever since central banks started hiking rates, and however, in the US, for example, it's nowhere to be seen, at least for now, this recession. In Europe, there's only a technical recession in some parts of Europe, for example, Germany. Do you think this means that we're close to a soft landing?
We mean that in the US, we've been on the side of those who believed there would be a soft landing, and up to now, actually, if you look at the speed of the US economy, it went close to zero, by the end of last year. The problem is that right now, it's not only that the recession has been avoided, but the economy is going a bit too fast. Mm-hmm. So those who are fearing a recession now are revising their views. Unfortunately, if the economy proves more resilient than what everybody expected, we expected it to be resilient, but not that resilient, the Fed may have to tighten a bit more unless we see wages that would keep decelerating. Remember that what matters for the Fed is not the speed of the economy. They want to curb inflation, and right now they know that to curb inflation they have to curb wage increases. Up to now, wages have been decelerating. If they keep decelerating, despite the economy being a bit faster, things could be fine, but we'll end up with higher policy rates, slightly higher than expected. That's the view we have on the US. Now, on Europe?
And in Europe, we don't believe there will be a recession, but we think that growth will remain lackluster. And the reason for that is tighter monetary policy is now weighing, we believe, on residential investment. Mortgage rates have jumped. This is curbing household credit, but also a tightening of lending conditions, curbing firms' credit. So this is going to slow down the economy. But at the same time, remember that inflation, because of the energy shock now, the end of the energy shock, inflation now is receding. Mm-hmm. It's slow, it's stickier, but it's still receding. So household purchasing power should improve, we believe, in the second half of this year. And this should support consumption, plus the fact that during the COVID, there has been a huge pile up of excess savings in Europe. It's almost 10% of disposable income that money has been put aside by households, and we do expect that households will slowly deplete those excess savings, so it should support consumption. Consumption should grow by 1%, so we should avoid a recession, but we believe that growth will still be lackluster.
By the way, you spoke about wages, and yesterday Christine Lagarde, the president of the ECB, spoke also about wages and about pressures on wages and how they could affect inflation also. After all these rate hikes, unemployment, however, has not gone up in the last year, more than a year, since the Federal Reserve, for example, started hiking rates. Do you think this is a new era in macroeconomics where we won't see a relationship between unemployment, between inflation and interest rates?
No, I don't think so. I think that what we went through, the COVID episode, was something totally unseen, especially in the US. If you remember what happened in the US, you had 30 million people fired within a couple of weeks, 13 million. You had to rehire those people very quickly once things reopened. And how did firms do it? Just by overbidding themselves, giving higher wages to get people to come to their company, which they did, but wage increases jumped. And right now, what we see is that wages are decelerating despite the fact that the unemployment rate is exactly the same as before. What changed is the quits rate, the rate at which people leave one job to find another one with a better pay. And this is a change that is totally related to the COVID episode. And this, we believe, is slowly falling back to more normal levels. If you look at the quits rate, the rate at which you shouldn't look at openings, you should look at the quits rate, it's falling back to where it was before the pandemic, and wages are decelerating. It's not a new area, it's the end of the COVID episode. It's totally different, we believe, but the future will tell.
Florence, anything to add?
Well, in Europe it's a bit different. We think that growth has been weak, but it's understandable what has happened on unemployment rate. The potential rate of growth in Europe is very weak. There has been no productivity gain since 2015, and working age population is declining. So it's not the fact that relationship had changed, it's just the fact that we are aging, we have a society that is aging, firms have not invested a lot, so productivity gains have been pretty disappointing.
Anton Brender, Chief Economist at Candriam, thank you so much for being here.
Our
and
pleasure.
Florence Pisani, Global Head of Economic Research at Candriam, thank you so much to you as well. Bueno, aquí terminamos esta entrevista. Nos hablaban, por ejemplo, de cómo no es cierto eso de que estemos en una nueva era macroeconómica donde no hay relación entre el desempleo, la inflación y los tipos de interés, sino que es verdad que últimamente pues, las cuestiones o los factores que han afectado al desempleo han sido distintos por culpa de la pandemia y de que ahora mucha gente que se quedó sin trabajo durante el coronavirus pues ahora están volviendo, y que es por eso por lo que es verdad que no estamos notando cómo pueda estar aumentando el paro en Estados Unidos. También nos hablaban del soft landing, de que bueno, pues se puede conseguir evitar una recesión en las principales economías del mundo, Europa, también Estados Unidos, y con esto terminamos esta entrevista. Les doy las gracias a los dos y ahora sí, vamos ya con Luis de Guindos, que sigue hablando en Sintra, en